Please stand as you are able. As we begin this ceremony, we would like to acknowledge that we are on the ancestral territory of the Meskwaki, Sauk, and Iowa peoples, whose land was taken from them through the encroachment of white settlers and then formally in 1845 through government land concessions. We wish to take a moment to pay respect to the Meskwaki, Sauk, and Iowa elders, both past and present, to recognize the Meskwaki Nation that exists today in Tama County, less than 30 miles from Grinnell College. This college offers this statement as a beginning commitment to learn more about local history and cultivate community. We also mark the start of this ceremony and ask that as we do, we pause for a moment of silence to remember Jack Gustafson, who was a member of the class of 2019 and is missed by loved ones and friends, especially on this day. May his memory be of a blessing. We gather this morning to celebrate the accomplishments of these students and graduate them on to their next endeavors. We acknowledge the joy that surrounds this ceremony as we revel in their achievements and honor them. Today, we and they look beyond previous hurdles, academic and co-curricular, and focus on outcome, on success. May they cherish this important time in their lives, an era of challenge, opportunity, and growth, a period of learning so many new things and discerning passions. We remember those members of campus community, faculty and staff, who have made the difference in the lives of these graduates. And we are grateful for the leadership roles these students played and the contributions they made on our campus and in the local community. So we begin this ceremony thankful to celebrate each of these graduates in our shared community. May this be the perfect time of jubilation as they mark the completion to a chapter of life and usher in wonderful new beginnings. Amen. Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to present our 2019 commencement speaker, Amy Tan, writer, artist, and advocate. Her ability to create unforgettable stories that have captivated millions around the world serves as an inspiration to our graduates. Please welcome Amy Tan.
President Kington, esteemed professors and Grinnellian alumni, proud families and happy friends, and especially those of you in cap and gown, the class of 2019. It's an honor to be here, truly an honor to be here on this special non-rainy day. You see, you are like me. You are curious, and you wonder, and you imagine what it might be for you and the world. You question, and you don't accept generalizations. You ponder the elusive nature of ethics and morality and whether they are universal. You have so much of the world in your mind, so much suffering to think about. And where do you begin? You and I know that stories have many beginnings and that they don't end with simple resolutions, good or bad. Something else happens, and you are part of that something. You have always been part of that story. Given that you are independent thinkers, I'm not going to be giving you any all-encompassing advice or homilies or ancient Chinese wisdom. Instead, I'm going to do what writers do best. I'm going to talk about myself. And I'm going to do this because I found there's this amazing thing that happens when you write a story that is deeply personal, true to yourself. You often find that people resonate. They find resonance in that story. They find that the deep and personal thoughts that I have are the same ones that they have. And so let me begin by saying to you, confessing to you that I never dreamed of becoming a writer. In fact, I knew by the age of 6 what I would become. And that is because a lady came to my school, a very well-dressed lady, and she gave me a test. And then she said to my parents that I would become a doctor. My parents were delighted to tell me that. In fact, they said I would not only become a doctor, I would become a concert pianist because I was taking piano lessons. Now imagine it, 8 a.m. surgery, 8 p.m. concert. Well, at that young age of 6, I had fear clutching me because I was worried that I wasn't smart enough. And this fear that I wasn't smart enough would haunt me for the rest of my childhood and into my adulthood. Well, I never dreamed of becoming a writer. I actually did dream of becoming an artist. I was told I had quite a good eye. I could draw a cat that looked like a cat. And, but then I had an art teacher who wrote this on my report card when I was in junior high. He said, has admirable drawing skills, but lacks imagination necessary to a deeper creative level. Lacks imagination, creativity, and deep depth. And those are the worst things you could say to a writer. I had other indications that I had limitations. For example, on the SAT test in the English portion, I scored in the 400s, which is not exactly a good indication that I was standing before you today as your author. And the odd thing is that I got a 700 or in the 700s on Spanish, so go figure. I also did a lot better in math, and so maybe the well-dressed lady was right. I started college, Linfield College, as a pre-med student. Now, the problem was I didn't really like biology or chemistry or any of those other classes. And with disinterest, failure was looming. And that was hastened by love, because when I was a freshman, I fell in love with a boy I met on a blind date. And I failed to study for my final exams. And so as I recall, I got something like a C in biology, a D in chemistry, and F in calculus. Well, these were terrible facts that I had to convey to my mother. My father had already died, so she was the only one I had to tell that I would not become a doctor. Shortly after that, I told her I would also not become a concert pianist, that I had quit my piano lessons. There would be no applause, no curtsy bow, no tears of parental pride. I instead chose something that I loved to do. I loved to read. And I decided that despite what the SAT tests had said, I would become an English major. And that was also because a professor, a wonderful professor of English, told me that he liked my essays. I didn't think about what I would do with the English major. I could wait 3 more years. Along the way, I read Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, and I fell in love with language. I fell in love with the texture of words and when they were used and the people who used them. And so I ended up taking another major in linguistics. I got my degree in English and linguistics, and then I delayed things about my career by taking a master's in linguistics, and then to delay it even further, I enrolled in a PhD program at UC Berkeley. was a very competitive school. And within a year, I felt I was the worst student, and they would soon kick me out. And before that could happen, I decided that I would quit. Now I faced a huge existential crisis. Who was I going to be? I was the blank and the fill in the blank. My very self was at stake. Before I could continue with this despair and gloom, however, something else eclipsed that, far more serious. One of our best friends was murdered in a robbery. He was somebody who was a computer sciences major, and he had wanted to make innovative devices for people with disabilities. I had wanted to be who knows what. But I made a vow that I would do something meaningful with my life. And so I answered an ad for a language development specialist for programs that serve children with developmental disabilities, birth to 5, and their parents. I had 2 courses in language acquisition. I had never taken a course in disabilities, in intervention, in education. I didn't like children. I thought that they screamed a lot, they pooped, they threw food from their high chairs. But I started that job with this commitment. And in the beginning, I tried to show how smart I was, so people would think I was worthy of the job. But one day, a woman said to me, a mother, she could barely speak English, and she said to me, "You're so smart." And I felt so stupid. And from then on, what I did was I listened. I listened to those parents talk about love and their hopes and their losses and their hopes again. And when they cried, I cried with them. I loved that job. I loved those kids. Their lives were individual stories, and I had become interwoven with it. But then a terrible thing happened. I was promoted. And I became a project manager. Now, I was an administrator. I had no contact with kids and parents, really. And I found that I also had differences of opinion with my bosses about ethics. And so I found myself once again quitting something. I left. And now again, I was nobody. Who would I become? I had left not only my job, but the profession. I found a job, a temporary job, I thought, as a copywriter for a small PR agency. I was writing things like direct mail, which is like today's spam. I was writing PR releases for questionable companies and products. But I was doing this because the guy said that I was a partner. I had 20% interest in the company. Well, I found out that wasn't true. And when I did, I told him I was quitting and I was going to go off and become a freelance writer on my own. And he gave me these words of encouragement. "Fat chance, you'll be lucky if you make a dime." I was so angry at his condescension that I took his words as a challenge. And within a few months, I was making a lot of dimes. I had a client roster that included AT&T and IBM. I was writing brochures and speeches and educational materials and newsletters for those companies. I was a success. Those people really needed me. I was billing 90 hours a week. They said I was irreplaceable. I doubled my fee. They still loved me. But in the morning, I would go down to my office and I would ask myself, is this what I'm going to be doing 10 years from now, 20 years from now? And then I would turn on my computer and begin to work. I was in a terrible crisis, even though I was a success, so to speak. A friend suggested that I go to see a psychiatrist for my workaholism. If you didn't like to work but you couldn't stop, there was something wrong. So I saw this therapist, even though it went against my nature as a bargain hunter to pay $200 to have somebody listen to me complain. I didn't have to pay for it long because one day, a guy never said anything except, time's up, talk to you next week. But I found out why he never said anything. He fell asleep. I didn't say anything the first time. I was so embarrassed for him. But the third time, I demanded a refund and I quit therapy. This was becoming a problem for me. I was quitting everything. Well, I decided to do something on my own, to make my own decision on what I should do with my life. And I decided that I would only work 50 billable hours a week. And in all my spare time, I would start writing fiction because I had always loved to read. I took a writer's workshop, and there it felt as if my mind and my soul had been plugged into an electrical socket, and the dormant parts of me had come alive. I found that in writing, the subterfuge of fiction had led me to deep emotional truths. And this was a high I had never experienced in my life. It was something I wanted to feel over and over again. And it didn't matter if I ever made money. This is what I was going to do no matter what. Of course, I would still continue to do the business writing because, after all, I was pragmatic. I had to make a living, and everybody knows you wouldn't make a dime writing fiction. Well, as you all know, I got published. But it didn't happen the way that you think, because I never asked for this. I never dreamed it. I didn't seek an agent. I didn't seek a publisher. It just happened. It was like winning the lottery when I had never bought a ticket. It was, in fact, frightening, because you think that you're in control of your own destiny, your own future, and then something simply happens out of your control. It took me approximately 6 months before I accepted what happened. And every day, it's been 30 years now, every day I wake up, and I am so grateful for the life that I have. It's a life that involves continuing to write stories and finding those emotional truths. And it also includes responsibilities for a writer being in the public eye to speak out about pain and suffering and injustice. I told you that there are stories and they don't have endings, they continue, and I want to tell you a bit about what some of those endings were. I mentioned to you that there was a teacher who told me I had no creativity. Well, I became friends with him, and recently I started drawing, and I sent him a picture of a bird, and I reminded him of what he said to me. I told you that I hated my piano lessons and I quit. Music is a huge part of my life. We support the symphony, the opera, jazz, piano. I even wrote libretto for an opera. I told you that I didn't do well on the SAT. My work is now used in the advanced placement SAT. I told you that I flunked because I fell in love with a boy on a blind date. I married that boy, and we have been together for 49 years. I told you that I hated science, and today I read more science books than I do fiction. I go out with my friends on field research studies, and I look for leeches and lichen and even poisonous snakes. I found the woman who gave me the test. I did. I Googled her. And I found out that test did not say that I was going to be a doctor. It had nothing to do with whether I was smart. She had tested me and 49 children because we were early readers, and she wanted to find out how we learned to read and whether this was harmful or helpful later in learning. I was shocked because this had affected my self-esteem my entire life. I told her what my parents had said, and she said, they were wrong to say that. You love to read, and that's why you became a writer. And I cried when she said that. As I said, the stories continue, and you are part of why that continues. I am so happy you are here in this world for our future. Thank you.
President Kington, it is my pleasure to present those persons of high accomplishment and distinction to whom the faculty and trustees of this college wish to accord honorary degrees. I have the honor to present Amy Tan for the honorary degree Doctor of Humane Letters.
You might know Amy Tan from her best-selling novel, The Joy Luck Club. You might know her from her knockout TED Talk on creativity. You might know her from her performances in the literary musical supergroup, The Rock Bottom Remainders, or her appearance on The Simpsons. Amy Tan, it seems, can do just about anything. Tan, a daughter of a Chinese immigrant mother, rose to fame in 1989 with The Joy Luck Club. The novel explored the lives of Chinese-American immigrant families and was nominated for numerous awards. It has since sold close to 6 million copies and was adapted into a movie. She has written numerous other best-selling novels, including The Kitchen God's Wife, The Bone Setter's Daughter, and Saving Fish from Drowning. She has also written 2 children's books and a range of nonfiction works. Her most recent book is a writing memoir called Where the Past Begins. Critics have called it gripping, breathtaking, and a must-read for the ages. Tan has never limited herself to just one form. She has lectured internationally and served as a creative consultant for the television adaptation of her children's book, Sagwa. She wrote the libretto for an opera based on her book, The Bone Setter's Daughter. She is also the self-styled lead rhythm dominatrix for the Rock Bottom Remainders. This band of literary superstars has included Stephen King and Barbara Kingsolver, among others. And Tan's exuberant performances have helped the group raise more than $1 million for literary groups. For her incisive writing on the Chinese-American immigrant experience and for the enthusiasm she brings to the telling of many types of stories, we are proud to honor Amy Tan.
Amy Tan, on recommendation of the faculty of this college and with approval of the Board of Trustees, I admit you to the degree Doctor of Humane Letters honoris causa.
My mother, who always wanted me to be a doctor, would be so proud. I just have to mention something that had not been intended. All my speech completely blanked out, so I had to talk to you extemporaneously. He also left out the part about the Rock Bottom Remainders we actually performed last weekend, that I'm not a very good singer. And not only am I a rhythm dominatrix, I sing lead on a song called These Boots Are Made for Walking. At the end of that song, all the boys in the band, Stephen King, Mitch Albom, Dave Barry, Greg Iles, they bend over and I whip them. That is the kind of person that you have just awarded this doctorate to. Thank you.
President Kington, I have the honor to present Edith Renfrow Smith, class of 1937, for the honorary degree Doctor of Humane Letters.
When the Chicago Tribune interviewed Edith Renfrow Smith in 2017, she said, "Everybody has a story to tell." There is no question that the sentiment applies to Smith herself. Smith was born in Grinnell in 1914 into one of a tiny number of African American families in the town. In 1937, she became the first African American woman to graduate from Grinnell College. She says that her experience wasn't always easy, but she had a reliable strategy to avoid conflict and stay focused on her goals. If they're not nice, she said in an interview, leave them alone. Like many Grinnellians, she headed to Chicago after graduation, and she has been there ever since. She worked as a stenographer, a telephone operator, and a public school teacher. She married and had 2 children. Later, in retirement, she volunteered at Goodwill and at the Art Institute. Her life has spanned countless historical moments. She was born at the outbreak of World War I, 5 years before women had the right to vote. She has lived through the administrations of 18 United States presidents. She personally met Amelia Earhart. Today, at age 104, she is part of a Northwestern University Super Agers study. The research analyzes the biological and social factors of older adults who have the mental faculties of people who are decades younger. For her pioneering life and the story that she has to tell, we are pleased to honor Edith Renfrow Smith, class of 1937.
On the recommendation of the faculty of this college and with approval of the Board of Trustees, wait a minute. We had to pause for that. On the recommendation of the faculty of this college and with approval of the Board of Trustees, I hereby admit Edith Renfrow Smith to the degree Doctor of Humane Letters honoris causa.
Well, I hope I can get over here without falling. And I know all of you wonder why I have a stocking cap on this morning. If you don't have any hair, and it's kind of breezy, you have to cover up the bald spots. So, Grinnell has been my life. Well, as you know, I was born at 411 First Avenue. Went to kindergarten, to Davis School, and now I am receiving this great honor from our highest point of education. And this is wonderful, and to see all you people. I looked at all the graduates. You know, our class, there was only 88. And life has been wonderful. Remember, take every opportunity to do your best. And I have done it, I hope. Thank you all.
President Kington, I have the honor to present Richard Royal Fisher for the honorary degree Doctor of Science.
Richard Royal Fisher dreamed of being an astronaut. When he learned that he didn't meet the physical qualifications for the position, he did the next best thing. He spent a lifetime pursuing work that helps us understand our solar system. Fisher earned a degree in mathematics from Grinnell College and a doctorate in astrogeophysics from the University of Colorado. He helped build specialized telescopes for institutions including the Sacramento Peak Observatory in Sunspot, New Mexico, and the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder, Colorado. In 1991, he began work for NASA. He served as chief of the solar physics branch, chief of the Laboratory for Astrophysics and Solar Physics, and director of the Heliophysics Division. He awarded research contracts to hundreds of scientists. He managed over a dozen satellite development projects as part of the Heliophysics flight program. He was also instrumental in the development and promotion of the 3D Sun iPhone app. With the help of real-time images, users can see the sun's solar flares and sunspots, among many phenomena. For his work, Fisher has received significant recognition, including a Presidential Rank Award, the United States government's highest honor for career senior executive service members. He received NASA's Distinguished Service Medal, an honor also given to lunar astronauts. For a lifetime of service to help all of us on Earth understand phenomena well beyond our planet's boundaries, we are pleased to recognize Richard Royal Fisher, class of 1961.
Richard Royal Fisher, on the recommendation of the faculty of this college and with the approval of the Board of Trustees, I admit you to the degree Doctor of Science honoris causa.
President Kingston, the faculty and the staff of Grinnell College, alumni, families, and graduating seniors. I want to express my deep gratitude to you for your invitation for me to be with you here today and to participate in your graduation ceremony. I am truly grateful for your kindness and your hospitality, and I couldn't imagine in my wildest dreams ever being in a situation where I would talk before you today. Thank you. I am deeply touched. I shall now tell a space story. Now, first of all, I have to have a little remark. I know two kinds of stories. The first are stories about human activities, and these are riding, and that'd be horses or motorcycles, golf, fishing, flying, and space. I know another kind of story, which I'll get to in a moment. The ones with human activity always begin with exactly the same words, and this is useful when you're trying to understand what you're hearing. And they always begin, if you will, "You aren't going to believe this." But to honest to gosh, I was right there, and I saw it with my own two eyes. Now, fairy tales, of course, you know, always begin a different way. They use a similar formula, and that is once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away, so forth and so on. But after these different beginnings, some of the stories are so similar that it's very difficult to distinguish what you're hearing. And I thought I would mention that so you had some idea, some anticipation. On a very cold, very brisk November evening, 60 years ago, at a location 131 meters behind me, I witnessed the biggest auroral display, the Northern Lights, that has been seen over Iowa during the 20th century. I wouldn't have believed it, except I saw it with my own two eyes. And that night, I was so impressed, I went up and I wrote in my one-page-a-day diary, and this is sort of like it's an analog iPhone idea. You're probably not familiar. I have to know more about this. I'd witnessed the visible aftermath of something called a GLE. Now, I didn't say jelly. It's GLE as in George Lima Echo. And when scientists don't know what they're talking about, they will habitually use a three-letter acronym so that you know they're familiar with it and they don't have the foggiest notion what they're talking about. A GLE is a catastrophic solar flare which is so powerful that it alters the entire magnetic field of the solar system. This was the 10th one that had ever been experienced by humans. By sheer chance, I had photographed the sunspot that produced the GLE 2 or 3 days before the flare and the aurora. And this was the output of an independent study project here at Grinnell. I was enabled in this project by two wonderful guys, Mr. Oakey, who tutored me concerning photography and its processes and techniques, and by Mr. Sandman, who taught me how to analyze an instrument as a linear filter. The result was the first of many, and I hesitate to put a number on it, but it would now be millions of solar images that I've collected. And I still keep that image on my two laptops. I have to know more about this. This event occurred a little over 3,000 weeks ago. And I've sub-vocalized that phrase at least once a week for the last 60 years. I have since lost the ability to distinguish whether that is a promise or a prayer, and it may have been both at some point in time. At Grinnell, soon after, my interests were transformed into a passion to know more about the connection between the sun and the earth. And that passion, in fact, has influenced most of the major decisions of my life. It was the result of a very improbable intersection of an independent study and infrequent natural phenomena and the kindness and generosity of those two faculty members. It allowed me to make modest cultural and intellectual contributions, but it also allowed me to support national and international research communities. I feel that I have been incredibly fortunate. My hope for you today as graduates is that you found your own moment of inspiration, where your interest, your preoccupation, and your passion have forged together so that you have a meaningful and significant life goal. Perhaps you had one before you got to Grinnell, and if so, congratulations. Perhaps you discovered one here at Grinnell. Good luck with it. Perhaps you haven't had this experience. Don't get discouraged. It doesn't happen right away. Just keep on looking, and the most important issue is to remain present and open to the possibilities. That moment of inspiration may crop up unanticipated in time or circumstance, as did mine. 30 years ago, 131 meters away, and a galaxy far, far away. Thank you very much.
President Kington, I have the honor to present Kristin DeMoss for the honorary degree Doctor of Social Studies.
English teacher Kristin DeMoss knows that poetry is everywhere. In her classroom, you might find her helping her students analyze a sonnet by Shakespeare or the lyrics of the latest hit by Katy Perry. She uses their words to show her students how artists succinctly convey emotions and meaning. DeMoss has been deeply involved in the Poetry Out Loud program. She has helped her students do close analysis and powerful recitations. She is happy to spend hours analyzing a word or a line with her students. And she works to help them breathe life into words on a page. Thanks to her guidance, students have landed top spots in both state and national Poetry Out Loud competitions. Her students say that the confidence she has helped them develop has benefited them in ways that go well beyond that experience. DeMoss works hard to help all of her students develop their communication skills. To her, it's not just about writing essays or reports. It's about teaching skills that will benefit them no matter which life path they choose. DeMoss always wants her students to know that they have someone in their corner as they make their way through life, someone who cares about them as humans beyond their test scores or their grades. For her tireless efforts to help her students understand the power of others' words, as well as the power of their own, we are pleased to recognize Kristin DeMoss.
Kristin DeMoss, on recommendation of the faculty of this college and with approval of the Board of Trustees, I admit you to the degree Doctor of Social Studies honoris causa.
Well, I'm wondering what the chances are I can get my 7th graders to call me Dr. DeMoss tomorrow. Thank you, Dr. Kington, Board of Trustees, and esteemed faculty members for including me in today and for having such a special award to honor educators who dream that all of their students make it to days like this. And thank you, Emma Libersky, for nominating me. I'm so proud of you and everything you have accomplished. I'm honored to have been your teacher, your coach, and your friend. You have always been a rock star, and I know you will continue to be in the future. However, if I had known that being your poetry coach all those years ago would result in me being here, I might have reconsidered. So I have a question I want to pose to all of you students today. Who are you? For the past 17 years or so, you probably answered that question with daughter, son, friend, and most likely student. But now you're exiting your role as student. Sure, some of you are going on to grad schools, but things are still going to change significantly for you. And when they do, who will you be? How will you define yourself? To answer that question, I encourage each of you to consider the world we live in. Yes, we need people who excel in their jobs, and you should definitely go and be the best insert career here you can be. But if you do that thing, that career, really well, and don't show kindness to people, does it really matter? If you reach the top of your field but do not take the time to show compassion and help others, have you really accomplished anything? At the end of the day, at the end of your life, what is really going to matter? The job you do will be valued, don't get me wrong. And pursuing goals is such an amazing and worthwhile journey. But what this world really needs right now are people who care. Because I hate to break it to you, people suck sometimes. They are rude, they're selfish, they do not listen. Don't be like that. Realize that God put you here for a reason and put you with other people for a reason. And that reason was not to be an island or a jerk. It was to love Him and to be a force for good in this world. So what does that look like? I'm so glad you asked. I think it looks like pursuing kindness, not just showing kindness when it seems natural. You see, it's easy to leave a great tip for a nice waitress at a restaurant, but being kind is more than that. Being kind also means showing compassion and grace to the person who doesn't deserve it. Being a force for good means treating the custodian in your building with the same amount of respect and honor you show your boss. And not because you want people to think you're a good person, but because you know that he or she is a wonderful and valuable individual. Caring about someone should be something we do even for the person who rubs us the wrong way and has offended us. We live in an easily offended world, and it's such a trap. All being offended does is hurt ourselves because it traps us in our anger and robs us of joy, and nothing should hold that kind of power over us. We need to learn to let that stuff go. Being a force for good means that you intentionally let conflict or potential offense in your life bring out the best version of you, because you are the first to listen, to show humility, and it means that you are not a peacekeeper, but a peacemaker. It means that you fight with all you have against the divisiveness in this world. There are too many walls up between us, and all those walls are based on stupid, superficial labels society places on us, trying to make us think we're different, that we're better, or even that we're worse. When underneath it all, we are all the same. Everyone has a story. Everyone is valuable. Everyone deserves kindness and respect. These are the things this world needs. These are the pursuits that matter most in life. Does it produce the same results as our typical ambitions? No, there's no cap and gown ceremony for caring about others, but it does have the potential to influence someone to follow your example. And that person can influence the next person, and so on. And that ripple effect will change the world. Congratulations on everything you've accomplished here at Grinnell. I wish you all the best. As you go on from here, do well in your pursuits and do good in the world. And when someone asks, "Who are you?" make your answer and your life's impact something that matters. Thank you.
It is now my privilege as president to recognize members of the faculty who, after long and devoted tenure at the college, are entering upon emeritus status. I now ask Paul Munyon, Associate Professor of Economics, to rise. After serving for years in the military reserve forces and teaching at colleges and universities across the country, Paul Munyon found his home at Grinnell. In addition to introductory economics courses, Munyon taught classes in industrial organization and finance, as well as financial and managerial accounting. He was deeply committed to his students and conducted research outside the classroom to support better teaching within it. For his efforts to make sure that all of his students get the best possible economics education, we are proud to honor Paul Munyon. I now ask Chris Hunter, Professor of Sociology, to rise, right behind me. For sociology professor Chris Hunter, work may have started in the classroom, but it never ended there. He considered his advising and mentorship work with students among his most important responsibilities at Grinnell. His course on nonprofit organizations provided the groundwork for many students who went on to work with the Mid-Iowa Community Action Coalition and to careers with many other nonprofit organizations. He was dedicated to issues of equity and inclusion. He served as faculty representative for the Associated Colleges of the Midwest Committee on Minority Concerns and was deeply committed to his role as posse mentor. For his efforts to make Grinnell, both the community and the college, places where more people can thrive and excel, we are pleased to recognize Chris Hunter. I now ask William Case, Professor of Physics, to rise. Like his students, Bill Case has always been driven by a sense of curiosity about the world and how it works. His research has spanned a broad area of physics, including mechanics, electrodynamics, plasma physics, and quantum mechanics. He may be best known for his work describing the surprisingly complex mechanics underlying the rattleback and pumping of a playground swing. His popular course, Bridges, Towers, and Skyscrapers, explores not just the engineering behind famous structures such as the Eiffel Tower and Brooklyn Bridge, but also the under-the-radar stories of the people who helped create them. A true believer in the value of the liberal arts, Case is a skilled photographer and has led independent studies to help students learn the technical work of developing film and printing photos. For his unstinting efforts to understand the world and share his knowledge with his students, we are honored to recognize William Case. I now ask Professors Mark Montgomery, Susan Ireland, and Ellen Meese to please stand. There you go. It is my honor to recognize these faculty members moving to senior faculty status. Senior faculty status recognizes those members of the faculty who wish to be released from their regular full-time teaching obligations to pursue scholarly and professional activities associated with the college. Congratulations and thank you.
President Kington and ladies and gentlemen, the Dean of the College will now present the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Would the candidates for the Bachelor of Arts degree please rise? President Kington, on the recommendation of the faculty of Grinnell College, I present to you these candidates for the degree Bachelor of Arts. Having fulfilled all of the academic requirements, they are deemed worthy of and entitled to this degree.
As president of Grinnell College, I now recommend to the Board of Trustees, through you as one of its members, that each of these students be graduated to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
President Kington, the charter of this institution states that the college's objects shall be to promote the general interests of education and to qualify young people for the different professions and for the honorable discharge of the various duties of life. It is a pleasure for me to acknowledge that these students have not only completed a course of formal study at this institution, but have also come to know the demands and the rewards of a shared experience in learning. As such, they have indeed furthered the general interests of education and qualified themselves for the honorable discharge of the various duties of life. The Board of Trustees is therefore pleased to accept your recommendation and authorizes you, as president, to grant this degree.
By the authority vested in me by the trustees of Grinnell College, I now officially declare that having met all the requirements, you are today granted the degree of Bachelor of Arts and are admitted to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities that it confers. Congratulations, you may be seated.
President Kington, Associate Professor Vance Bird will call the graduates in the Division of Humanities.
Will the graduates to the Bachelor of Arts degree from the Division of the Humanities please come to the platform as instructed by the Marshal. Alicia Suzanne Adams. Andrea Maria Baumgartel. Cecilia Bertochow Berkman. Mary Rose Amelia Bernal. Nolan Burke Bogus. Lily Bolke. Kiara Shannon Borowski. Kaylin Nicole Bryant. Martin Samuel Chamberlain. Jaeyeon Chen. June Christian. Emma Marie Christoph. Maria Chupka. Catherine Frances Cuddy. Joshua J. Cusson. Alicia Christine DeBella. Stephen Duong. Julia Nash Durstman. Hannah Hyunji Iom. Maxwell Paul Fenton. Anthony J. Few, in absentia. Amelia Rose Gieser. Eden Lorraine Gregory. Hannah Catherine Grischuk, in absentia. Sean Edward Haggerty Ruiz. Nicholas Halsbauk. The President's Medal is awarded annually at each commencement to the senior who exemplifies an ideal Grinnell student. Superior scholarship, demonstrated leadership that credits both the student and the college, compassionate and sensitive behavior, and individual responsibility are among the qualities that must be demonstrated. It is my pleasure to present the President's Medal for 2019 to Rebecca Oakley Shung. Lydia Grace James. Talara Len Jensen. Emily Ann Jordan. Joseph Richard Nopke. Anais Levine. Lauren Marie McKenzie. Nora Jane Madrigal. Mayoko Maeda. Vivian Redden Maikos. Peter Paul Marsh. Molly Elizabeth Marsters. John R. Mailhouse. Sofia Mendez Subieta. Candace Medal. Broden Mikuta. Kate A. Moore. Michaela Brianne Murphy. Riley Brendan Murphy. Farah Omar. Sean Emmett O'Reilly. Sophie Peck. Charles Alfred Puckett. Kertemay Pinsay. Sarah Elizabeth Mavis Phillips. Elizabeth Grace Rapchuk. Charlotte Rachel Richardson Deppie. Joseph Charles Robertson. Anne Sophia Rogers. Edward Glenn Rosenblum. Veronica Otelia Roos. Elise Hope Salpakar. Nolan Mihik Shanley. Phoebe Daniels Schreckinger. Olivia Rose Schutte. Lily Goodman Seibert. Daniel Gray Streetman. Richard Tadamasa Tanimoto. Ellen Taylor in absentia. Megan Perry Chang. Song Tuya. Anna Antonina Tuchin. Molly Ann Vornhold. Millicent Shaw Wakeman. Dana Yangmei Watkins. Timitayo Catherine Wolf. Alec Wood. Naomi Rose Warup. President Kington, these are the graduates from the Division of the Humanities.
President Kington, Professor Vida Preitis will call the graduates in the Division of Science.
Will the graduates to the Bachelor of Arts degree from the Division of Science please come to the platform as instructed by the marshal? Ashley Elizabeth Alto. Papa Kojo Umpindarko. Hyun Wan An. Nicole Danielle Arredondo. Sophie Ray Benegas, excuse me. Rachel Miranda Bass. Reverend Miles Bauman. Matori Lee Birnbaum. Anna Benecki Blinderman. Danica Boyevich. Grayson Hawes Bourgeois. Timothy Mikhail Brenhofer. Kara Panyu Brezhnahan. Ruth Cecilia Brindell. Allison N. Brink. Rachel Lynn Brott. The Andrew W. Archibald Prize for Highest Scholarship is awarded at each commencement to that student or students who have attained the best record of academic achievement over the 4-year period of collegiate work. Established in 1927, the award is named for its donor, the Reverend Andrew W. Archibald, who served as a distinguished member of the college's Board of Trustees. It is my pleasure to present one of the Archibald Prize medalists for 2019, Siri A. Brun. Christopher Emile Brunet. Eliza Catherine Bunnell. Emily Courier Burgess. Timothy Edwards Burnett. Aiden Margaret Call. Huang Xuan Cao. Nicole Susan Carver. Dennis Chunsing Chan. Ely Chapman Orr. Cameron Quinn Chen. Vivian Ray Cheslack. Sonia Chulaki. Peter Douglas Cipriano. Amelia Suheki Kogan. Daniel J. Cook. Megami Corley. Elena Rose Costner Withy. Samuel Packard Dalkey. Shamika S. Davis in absentia. Brandon David DiBella. Gabrielle Nicole DeRoche. Thomas Francis Dara. Mason Michelle Dodge. Lucy Ann Duffy. Gregory Holt Eastman. Danielle Paige Evans Schreiber. Judith Chow Fan. Libby K. Farrell. Noah Thomas Fluherty. Lauren Elizabeth Frankel. Courtney Yolani Fife Williams. Ryan Taylor Galang. Eve Isabel Galen. Sophie Donna Gachat. Morgan G. Jonathan Ashworth Gilmore. Carla Gomez. Addison Honor Gould. Zoe Rosemary Grubbs. Kai Gui. Ron Guo. Iridian Alexandra Guzman. Camille Francis Hall. Jordan Alexander Hamilton. Beth Ann Hansen. Leah Grace Harris. Abby Bentley Helwig in abstention. Nora Davis Hill. Austin Tyler Himshoot. Zachary Carl Hitzeroth. Benjamin Rex Hoekstra. Jackson Holcomb. Gwen Antonia Holtzman. Claire Simmons Jacken. Tyler S. Jackson. Henry Peter Jansen. Joshua Oliver Jensen. Anjali Jha. Sheeta Jing. Antonio Keyshawn Johnson, Jr. Leah Louise Johnson. Seong Ah Kang. Sydney Leah Casper. Reagan Rose Kasprak. Jefferson Taylor Keel. Songjaeong Kim in abstention. Madeline Minuet Kerwin. Audrey Elizabeth Coker. Michael Kolanowski in absentia. Emily Megami Kozik. Obyaya Lamsal. Elizabeth Chasen Lane. Hung Viet Le. Ka Hyun Lee. Allison Ariala Light. John Troster Lennon. Braden Allen Lashir. Story Catherine Lesher. Bryce Patrick Liu. Maisie Grace Lewis. Sherry Lee. Shu Yan Lee. Emma Jane Libersky. Andrew Benjamin Lehman. Benjamin Hyun Lim. William Salim Lindell. Leonchan Liu. Margaret Louise Laurie. Chrysolite Elikem Loglo. Carolyn Marie Lorch. Charlotte Ann Love. Jia Liu. Hadley Elaine Luker. Koi Bao Liu. Ningyi Liu in absentia. Henry M. Marr. Samantha Gail Molly Schmidt. Emily Ann Mamrak. Madison Marjorie Marcus. Bretta McCall. Corey Wyatt McCartan. Sarah Rosenberg McCarthy. Katie Lou McCusker. Catherine Lee McDonald. Owen Graham McKinley. Catherine Ruth Menson. Andrew Nicholas Moy. Aditi Munshi. Kamal Nadison. Miriam Nadiratse. Gemma Marine Nash. Rachel Elizabeth Nastelin. David Howard Neal Asansa. Ben Huang Nguyen. Vincent Sang-hyun No. Elvira Nur Mohamedova. Emma Cecilia Olson. Shuri Pan. Jongbom Park in absentia. Yo Park in absentia. Vinny Pavoni Gomez. Lin Ching Peng. Antu Tran Pham. Mateusz Petrusiak. Anastasia Marie Pulak. Lucas Alden Resch. Megan Suzanne Riley. Jillian Grace Ricks in absentia. Emma Yvette Roback. Denise S. Ruvalcaba. Ely Vincent Salm. Brian Richard Sands. Jemuel B. Santos. Charles Edward Saunders. Eric Richard Schumann. Noah Harry Siegel. Ana Laura Suhebre Salazar. Regina Sharma. Patrick Connor Sheehan Clank. Zhiheng Sheng. Andrew James Schultz. Daniel Lev Somarov. Samuel Bailey Stickles. Logan Zachary Stewart. Joy Hee-jae Suh. Xiaobo Sun. Zachary John Susag. Rachel Elizabeth Swope. Yoon Tong. Rachel Donna Tappy. Carla Tenorio Rueda. Rebecca Teskey. Maxwell George Tetrick. McKaylee Ann Thurman. Juliette Monet Torres. Khadija Dumbo. Ming Nyok Phuong Chon. Justin Austin Turner. Tara Verma. Kai Eric Voorhees. Hun Tien Vuong. Derek S. Wong. John S. Wong. Zhen Yu Wong. Anna Rose Warm. Ashley Ann Warenberg. Tyler Damon Williams. Chris Dong Wong. Sophie Gwyneth Wind. Roshu Shah. Ijun Xiong. Shamiram Doris Youssef. Andrew John Zadeklik. Siyu Zhong. Yuanqi Zhao. Junmian Zhu. Nathaniel Drew. Mike Zhou. Tapi Wanashir Blessing Zavitswa. President Kington, these are the graduates from the Division of Science.
President Kington, Associate Professor Edward Cohn will call the graduates in the Division of Social Studies.
Will the graduates to the Bachelor of Arts degree from the Division of Social Studies please come to the platform as instructed by the Marshal? Lauren Acker. Dejan DJ Amand. Anna Joan Ahrens. Allah Akkad in absentia. Josim Alexander Aladsani. Thomas Augustin Aldrich. Faizan Ali. Julia Rose Anderson. Hunter David Antonis. Alexander Hideyoshi Asawa. Mujtaba Aslam. Renee Oswald Ayala. Feng Ba. Bailey Marie Bagneris. Prekcha Bajaj. Jeremy Isaiah Barnes. Madeline Ray Birchfield. Griffin John Bame. Acadia Marie Broussard. Julian Nelson Cabrera. Sarah Elizabeth Cannon. Denali Wayne Carpenter. Charles Tucker Carr. Carson Elizabeth Carey. Simon Ginsberg Caskey. Anya N. Chamberlain. John Henry Clark. Jose Eduardo Coloma. Evan L. Cooper. Nathaniel Gallo Crail. Vincent Povilas Curta. Haley Joe Cutrone. Muhammad Honi Damanhuri. Margaret Lucia Dambro. Noah Allen Daniel. Sophia Adele Delianibus. Alec Arthur Doss. Stephen Malik George Duhaney in absentia. Mark Wayne Duncan. Kylie Lynn Eichelberger. Claire Margaret Adie. Chandler Fisher. Ross Floyd. Emma Lee Folks. Nicholas Kingsley Pierre Foulon. Jacob George Friedman. Brianisha Lakeisha Frith in absentia. Tula Lily Fuchs. Mitsuki Fujio. Rory A. Gallagher. Morgan Kim Garnier. Emily Eve Gold. Isaac Noah Gold. Benjamin Matthew Grubb. Daria Renee Guzzo. Sydney Aiko Hamamoto. Lily Catherine Hamilton. Peter Johannes Hansen. Eric Martin Henderson. Caitlin Hess. Esther Y. Huang. Mithila Iyer. Sales Doucette Caston. Zachary Ian Lane. Jackson Sperry Lee. Lucas Hartley Ledoux. Raviv Levens. Sydney Kate Mo Litke. Yuhong Ma. Jordan Emily Mattis. Tiffany Ann Mattis. Lucas Eugene Miller. Patrick Fisher Min. Nicolette Echo Musakio. Selah Mystic in Absentia. Sam Nakahira. Gwyn Truk Nguyen. Benjamin Ewan Ogden Lord. Catherine Rose Orson. Eric Alexander Page. April Park. Jamal Lee Poole Preston. James Vincent Riley. Emily Lopes Rhodes. Cole B. Riley. Harley Alistair Rivers. Moya Elena Rorty. Rayan J. Robinson. Ryan Ladd Rossell. Naomi Lindsay Runder. Takshil Sachdev. Michael Thomas Schroeder. Wise Sheikh. Bardon Sigdal. Vidushi Sinha. Frishali Sinha. Ryan Slager. Carrie Denise Stallings. Elizabeth Ashley Stepp. Sophia Gates Stern. Uyin Sun. Michael Eric Sunby. Hassan J. Thompson Sr. Abigail Charette Thompson. Achiri Kubinza Joshua Tibatemwa. Cora Claire Walsh Touchstone. Alfredo Villalobos Perez. Kelly Videoli. Lena Alla Voss. Dylan Charles Welch. Emma Rose Wilhart. Hazel Corrine Williams. Karina Kimberly Wilson. Emily Marita Handley Zafiro. President Kington, these are the graduates from the Division of Social Studies.
President Kington, Dean Michael Latham will call the graduates to the Bachelor of Arts degree with independent and interdivisional majors.
Joseph Matthew Beggs. Mira Bronick. Lila Hazel Cardozo. Reed Cassell Essex. Moises Herrera. Emma Marie Kalkowski-Farrand. Hannah Danielle Kessel. B. Nicole Iram Kobla in absentia. Kyle Lindsay. Irina Matsui. Reina Matsura. Kevin Nguyen. Kaya Joanne Prasad. Caitlin Bell Richter. Lucid Jean Cantieri Thomas in absentia. Elizabeth Simone Chust Williams. President Kington, these are the graduates with independent and interdivisional majors. President Kington, I wish at this time to recognize the members of the class of 2019 who have been accepted into the 9th semester program leading to Iowa teaching certification. Would these students please stand as I call their names and remain standing until I have completed the list? Ariana Aguilera, Acadia Marie Broussard, Siri A. Brun, Danielle Paige Evans Schreiber, Anna Bell Ryerson Hines, Henry Peter Jansen, Moya Elena Rorty, Elise Hope Salpikar. Please be seated.
For the graduates to the degree of Bachelor of Arts, please rise.
For the graduates of the Bachelor of Arts degree. To the class of 2019. Earlier this year, after giving the keynote address at the University of Iowa College of Medicine's Martin Luther King Day celebration, I received an extraordinary email from a woman who graduated from Grinnell 50 years ago in 1969. She had watched the speech online, and this alumna had gone to college in a time of unprecedented pain and upheaval in our national political landscape. She and her classmates had witnessed Dr. King's historic speech at Grinnell, Remaining Awake Through a Revolution, delivered in October of 1967, a soaring, inspiring call towards social justice and civil rights. For some of the students gathered in Darby Gymnasium that day, the dream of a better, more just world, despite the war in Vietnam and race riots in American cities, must have at least briefly felt closer to realization. And yet, by the end of that year, those same students must have felt a reversal as sorrowful and profound as any they had ever experienced before or since, when Dr. King was assassinated in Memphis in April of 1968. The alumna wrote an interesting note. She said, the speech reminded her of the young woman I was at the time of Martin Luther King's speech and who I became after his death. Obsessed with social justice, but fueled primarily by rage and by hate. Unable to see my opponents or even my disagreeing fellow travelers with love and respect. When I read this note, I couldn't help but dwell on the phrase, fueled primarily by rage and hate. I marveled at the letter writer's own self-awareness and humility as she admitted to losing her capacity for love and respect amid disagreement. And I also couldn't help but think of our current political moment, a moment when our country is so deeply divided. It is so easy and often tempting, certainly for me and I'm sure for many of you, to make rage and even hate our daily fuel. In fact, many of us even sleep next to tiny handheld devices that we look at immediately upon waking up. We can see the day's headlines and top tweets, annoying emails, swelling controversies, literally before our heads even lift from pillows. We find ourselves full of rage, reading the words of other people full of rage, even as the coffee is still brewing. But as this alumna went on to write so thoughtfully, she learned over time that rage is an inefficient and an insufficient fuel, and hatred is a depleting force which sucks our energy rather than sustains it. Rage may actually make us feel good at first. It may make us feel a burst of energy and can often be the spark of social change. But gradually, rage must give way to other, more sustainable and efficient fuels. James Baldwin once said, to be a Negro in this country is to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time. I might say the same today as an African-American man who's father to two smart brown-skinned boys, as a gay man, as an immigrant son, as a physician and scientist who studied the appalling disparities in health in this country. And even on those occasions when I still regularly enter rooms where things happen and I am the only person of color in the room. But Baldwin understood that his communities, subject to marginalization and injustice, had to learn to contend with feelings of rage if they wanted to survive and thrive. Hatred, which could destroy so much, Baldwin wrote in The Fire Next Time, never failed to destroy the man who hated, and this was an immutable law. As graduates of Grinnell College, you spent 4 years gathering your own fuel, the resources that will sustain you through the long life's work you have ahead of you. When we say, go forth Grinnellian, we say that knowing that you have the energy you need for the journey ahead because of what we have seen you do on this campus and in your communities. We have already seen you at your best. We have seen you travel the world, interacting with cultures that were new to you in ways that were symbiotic and respectful. We have seen you take on demanding endeavors, such as immersive internships and hands-on service projects, and emerge as better, more experienced leaders, even or especially when things don't turn out the way you had hoped. We have seen you work on national and local political campaigns, advocate for clean air and water and divestment, speak out in support of organized labor, march in support of equal rights. We have seen you engage in complex critical inquiry and research, understanding that intense, challenging conversations can take place within a caring community. We have seen you demonstrate that you can disagree with a person without dehumanizing that person. We have seen you create works of art and literature in which you've been bold enough to share your personal experiences and empathetically introduce the experiences of others. We have seen you embrace the possibilities of science and technology to lead us to a more just and healing world, engaging in coursework that challenged you in ways that you never even knew existed 4 years ago. And we have seen you embrace one another, building friendships and a sense of common purpose that will always keep you connected to the energy you found on this campus. Now, I know we can't be immune to rage and hatred as humans. It's part of the human experience, especially as thoughtful humans living in 2019. But when you think back to your best memories, the most transformative moments you had at Grinnell, the moments that defined you, I believe that you will see those moments were fueled by the very opposite of rage and hatred. At those moments, I hope you see that you are fueled by imagination and awe, mutual respect, and curiosity. You are sustained by creativity and compassion, kindness, generosity, and love, both within yourself and from your peers, your mentors, and your community. Your tanks are full. Go forth, Grinnellians, and do the work you were meant to do. May you prosper.
As we prepare to send these graduates forth, we pray they be granted resilience, guidance, and patience as they begin their new endeavors. May each of them whose lives have been indelibly touched have indelibly touched the lives of so many of us in their short while on campus continue to be leaders, path bearers, who march to the beat of their own drum while being aware of the needs of those who are not able to choose their paths. As bright young leaders, help them to have the courage and ability to engage in the work where their knowledge and experience is most needed in this world, and courageously work for justice and peace. We pray they will live in hope, find fulfillment in the paths they choose, and may they remember Grinnell fondly and visit often this familiar and welcoming community. We pray for safe travel for these alums and their guests as they journey from this commencement. Peace be upon us all on this day and always. Amen.